Robert T. Jeschonek's letter from Swamp Thing number 51. Dear Alan, Stan, and Alfredo, Swamp Thing number 45, Ghost Dance, was an excellent piece of work, another fine chapter in the American Gothic saga. It added another layer to the current series, simultaneously building suspense for the upcoming climax and increasing the overall sense of the underlying decadence of America. I am most impressed by the unified, focused vision that Alan is bringing to American Gothic. Every new chapter revolves around the same central theme, the same worldview. Each chapter is like a fable, personifying and amplifying certain elements of American society, using graphic fictional horror to emphasize the horror of reality. First, the Rosewood Vampire showed the failure of contemporary society to maintain the values of the family. Then, the female werewolf of The Curse dramatized the persecution of women. The zombies of Strange Fruit brought out the bigotry and discrimination against blacks. The boogeymen exemplified the casual, inhuman attitude of society towards violence. And Ghost Dance shows the incredible amount of death and horror resulting from the open use of guns in this country. Taken together, these pieces form a powerful examination, possibly a condemnation of modern America. Ghost Dance was, of course, very well written. The idea of the huge bizarre house was based on similar structures which have actually been built, and provided a suitably strange and supernatural arena for the events of the story. The house is a monument to the death and violence which helped to create America, the death and violence resulting from a single type of gun. Imagine how huge a house would need to be to contain the victims of other types of guns, or all of them. The ghosts and spirits are not the truly frightening element of this story and house. It is the senseless slaughter upon which our country is based, the massive callous mechanism which created the ghosts in the first place. The structure of the story was unusual, since Swamp Thing didn't appear until page 13. However, it worked well, increasing the level of suspense and emphasizing the theme, instead of the mighty main character. The other characters were not very deep, and none of them was really likable. They were obviously just two-dimensional constructs used to sustain the action. A lot of characterization was not necessary, though, and would have taken away from the rest of the story. I liked the repetition of "the sound of the hammers must never stop." It was a nice effect which helped to unify the story and emphasize the theme. The descriptive narration was also vivid and eloquent, and set the mood darkly. I also liked the summoning of Swamp Thing through knocking on wood. This knocking, together with the many other references to banging sounds similar to the firing of a gun, the pounding of a nail, the hoofbeats of buffalo, Swamp Thing pounding on the table, created another unifying effect, a cadence which ran through the story like a killer's soundtrack. The story was obviously an anti-gun statement. Many people, I am sure, will be upset by it, either because they don't agree with Alan's position, or because they don't feel that such social and political statements belong in comics. I feel such statements do belong in comics, especially if they are handled as well as those of Mr. Moore. They add an extra philosophical level to graphic work, which is similar to the depth of a good novel. I really enjoy stories that say something, instead of dull-witted action tales with nothing below the surface conflict, or stories with thinly disguised morals. A story like Ghost Dance makes a controversial statement about an important issue, and whether you agree or not, it forces you to think. The only point where I feel Alan laid it on a little too thick was when he showed the tide of dead rabbits. Showing the cute little bunnies who were callously murdered was just a little too much, and really didn't help to support the theme. It was just not necessary. As for me, I agree with Alan that guns have produced far too much bloodshed and death in America and the world. I am also disgusted by the Indian massacres we used to build our country, and the ridiculous open violence of the romanticized Old West. I feel guns should not be readily available to everyone, and should not be sold in sporting goods stores. However, I don't think they are the root of crime, murder, and violence in our society. By outlawing or eliminating guns, I really don't believe we would prevent all the senseless violence. The problems of our society are much deeper, and until they are solved, if ever, Guns and violence will always be around. Hatred, lust, jealousy, insanity, greed. These are what pull triggers, not guns themselves. These are the elements of human imperfection, which will always find expression in violence, if not with guns, then with clubs, knives, and fists. More should definitely be done to curtail the availability of guns. At the same time, we need to realize that gun control is not the answer to the violence and crime in society. Robert T. Jeschonek, Johnstown, PA.